Received those icons. Some clay manifested in St. John's. Bonkers. but literally bonkers. So no, but it gets proper beyond the bonkers.
Does it?
Yeah. So the bishop
There's
gets
no further beyond the bonkers.
no, there is like absolutely unreal. Jan, she made like little icons of clay from Isis of fire. And then I give the bishop, gets one of them, like after he lit the flames, and then I give him one of those icons, and he goes like, oh, let's take a selfie. And we took a selfie, and in this selfie, a window in St. John's Church made like a frame around that little icon. And then the next day, the woman who made those icons, she comes into, like, she's in St. John's, sitting at a table, working away, and then the woman who takes care of St. John, she comes and she goes like, does any of you guys know anything about clay? And she's like, yeah, why? Well, I just found something. It's been in a chest for 4 years and I don't know if it's still any good. And so she went and that clay kind of, she found it in a box, in a chest that was at the bottom of that window. And the day after, the bishop kind of like, that's beyond.
These are the non-fire ones.
This is proper miracle kind of
If you want to have a little play
material.
whacking these around, you're more than welcome.
I'm never. I can't believe it. Every time.
They're not dirty or fire or anything. These ones just stay like this.
No,
Notched it up another.
this is it like that's nothing. Then I went to Ireland with that clay, taking the energies of the clay with me, and built her church, gave birth to those icons, and then brought those icons back. And essentially, then at a certain point in Glastonbury, they had to close St. John's Churchyard.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I told people like, look, this is just it's the energy. Everybody does whatever the fuck they want. It's all the Crowley kind of magic in town. Do as thou wilt, and that just gets reflected in the churchyard to the point where they have to close St. John the Baptist Church. And I'm like, wow. So 1st of May came, and I said like, I was told like, stay away. I told people I'm staying away because it's just a Crowley-inspired, fancy dress piss up. And I put a little icon at the market cross to hold the energies. And then the town crier got inaugurated, and his name is Bradley Crowley. And I'm like, what the actual fuck? And then I remembered that they've been reading the Book of Law at the market cross 3 years in a row. And that's kind of like, for them, it's their religion, telema. For other people, it's like satanic, because like people use it. Satanists all around the world use that to do magic to get what they want.
Yeah.
And
that was a good catch, see?
then I remember that guy kind of like the head of the telema people, like openly, here I am at that ceremony, here I am at the unity gathering in my white dress. And then here I am at the Beltane parade, second in line of all the green men wearing the same dress. And I'm like, what the fuck? For the telema people, like, this was their biggest moment. Mr. Crowley, and then I had a word with the town crier here up on the Tor. I'm like, because I told people like, what the fuck, Mr. Crowley, really? And there he's leading the dragon up the high street, and then I kind of had a word with him, and he said like, oh yeah, I heard about the rumor that like, oh, Mr. Crowley, and like la 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 la. I see it as a badge of honor. And I told him, like, look, mate, do you know that they've been reading out the Book of Law? You've been summoned. If you don't know what, like, you've literally been summoned. And he's like, oh, yeah, I'm really interesting to see what you're coming up with. And I don't know anything about what's going on in the background.
I did the first time I ever had to go.
And it turns out, just last week, I found out that he actually was reading the Book of Law himself at the Market Cross last year. Yeah. And then I saw on the pictures, I saw one of them like in front of a little chamber, because then I did my research like Crowley, what the fuck. And then there's like, as part of the rituals, there's a ceremonial chamber for the priestess, and 2 children need to fit in there. And that's part of their rituals. And also part of their rituals is to kiss the breasts of the priestess at a certain point, at some kind of ritual. And then I see one of them in like something that looks like a specially built ceremonial chamber, because it had the Eye of Providence on top, and I'm like, wow, that's really weird. Week later I find out that this is on the oldest well of Glastonbury, St Edmund's Well. They built a Crowley ceremonial chamber on St Edmund's Well, Glastonbury's oldest well. Unbelievable.
That was a good catch, that was. Nice.
And then bonkers, yeah,
Bonkers.
like beyond bonkers. And then I was told to I had to do something. So I went there and I chiseled out the eyeball of Providence. Absolutely fucking hilarious. And then I replaced the eyeball of Providence with an icon of divine feminine providences. I left my mark behind. And then took the eyeball home and then did a ceremony with it, like at the river where I live on the
Took the
tail.
eyeball
I did.
That could only come out of your mouth.
Yeah, I think nobody else would kind of. Oh, I'm just gonna chisel the eyeball of Providence out of the local Crowley temple, which well, I took some clay as well from that well, and then I took the eyeball home, did a ceremony with it, and put one icon on top and incense around, and as it got hot, the icon exploded.
This is the one.
And I'm like, what the fuck?
I'll show you.
And I'm like, la 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 la. Put the eyeball, leave it in the river for like 3 days, and then I took it out, and I made some icons with the clay from St Edmund's Well, and that needed to be burned. So I put the eyeball in a fire and put the clay figures on top. And then first the eyeball just went like, crack, okay, it cracked. And I filmed kind of like the icons, how they're getting burned, and I get a text, I sit down, and it goes, puff, but like puff, puff. Some of those fragments flew like 10, 15 meters wide. It exploded. Altogether, I found 42 pieces. Bonkers. And then I took the 3 biggest ones and I went to feed them. Yeah. And I fed them to the Guard Dog of Langport.
Yeah, I'm not very good at these.
You know, have you heard of the Guard Dog of Langport? No. Glastonbury Zodiac. It's like in the landscape of Glastonbury, there's our Zodiac. And there's also there's a dog that's the guardian dog of the Glastonbury Zodiac in the landscape. And we live on the tail. That's why it's Wag Grove.
Yeah.
And Borough Monk is the head. And there's 2 rivers that meet there, and King Alfred used to feed the Guard Dog of Langport there. And I fed the Guard Dog of Langport with the eyeball of Providence.
That should be on t-shirts, Ben, and underneath.
Are you sharing stories, you two?
Unbelievable.
Bonkers.
No, but that's proper. Like I found the local Crowley temple, and like on St Edmund's Well, they built a ceremonial chamber on St Edmund's Well.
Right.
That's outrageous. The Crowley people. It's been there. It's probably Crowley himself who instructed them to build it there.
Okay.
And I found it, and I chiseled the eyeball of Providence out of the wall above the entrance.
Where was that place you sent me the video to?
Huh?
Where was that? You sent me a video and it kept blowing up off the side.
Oh yeah, that was at my place where I did the ceremony before I then burned the eyeball until it exploded in 42 pieces.
Right, yeah.
First,
that's what you're talking about. Yeah, you sent me the video.
First the icon exploded, and then later the eyeball exploded. Absolutely flipping bonkers. And then eyeball fed, and then I'm like, there's a guy that came with me, and his name is Elijah. Don't know if you know Elijah. He's black. He's always got like a Merkaba, a copper Merkaba with him. And he came with me to feed the eyeball. And I told him, like, it's really funny because in St. John the Baptist Church, I realized and I found out that I am someone like Elijah with like the whole light of Christ and that falafel. And here I am at the end of what I had to do with you, Elijah, and we're feeding the Gurdog of Langport with the eyeball of Providence. This is absolutely hilarious. And then like the guy who helped me chisel the eyeball out, 3 of us for an hour and a half pretty much. And then he goes like, oh, let me carry the eyeball. And I'm like, okay, just carry it to St. John's and there you can give it to me. And he goes like, haha, my name is St. John. My middle name is St. John. And I'm like, what? You're joking, not John. And he's like, no, St. John. And I'm like, what the flip? So he gave me the eyeball at like St. John's.
How
And then
big is the eyeball? Just so
it was
wow.
like
Take it home.
proper. And then, so 3 weeks later, I feed it. I come here with Elijah and I give him like a little splinter of the eyeball and I say, okay, that's for you. I'm going to go up in the tower and I'm going to wedge one of those splinters of the eyeball in the walls. And then as I'm doing that, a guy comes running in, and that guy is St. John. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing here? Last time I saw him, he gave me the eyeball at St. John's. The guy with the middle name of St. John. And then Elijah is down there. And I give like St. John, I'm like, oh, remember the eyeball? I just fed it with Elijah, and now St. John is in here. This is bonkers. And he also knows the story, and like, oh, I am someone like Elijah, and like St. John. And then I give him like a little splinter. I give him like a little splinter of the eyeball, and he stays down. And then as I play my drum, and St. John sits in the tower with a splinter of the eyeball and meditates while I play my drum. Later I find out that Elijah, he was still there. So while me, knowing, like fully realized, okay, I am someone like Elijah, anchors these energies after I fed the eyeball of Providence to the Gurdog of Langport. St. John sits in the tower and Elijah sits at the bottom of the tower, and both of them hold on to a splinter of the eyeball of Providence and meditate while I play drum.
That's amazing.
This is, it's beyond fucking bonkers. And then stopping on the high street. You remember how I broke the Star of David, and then in St. Benedict's Church, and blood everywhere, and I'm like, well, I broke the Messianic seal of Jerusalem and I sealed it with blood. And then, like, with this whole Crowley thing, basically, it's the great beast 666 revealed himself. And then, there was a stabbing last week, or 10 days ago,
Jolene told me that.
and a trail of blood all the way down the high street. In May, while St. John was still officially closed. So for them, the Telema people, the Crowley worshippers, this was their biggest day. They've got Mr. Crowley in front and the head of the Telema priests behind. The maypole, they carve the Crowley code 93 into the maypole and the Crowley star into the maypole, consciously. And there's 10 of them are the priests who know what they're doing. The magic is the magic that puts the love under will. So it's, and then to see all of those, Derek, to see all of those like following all the people that don't know what they're doing, and they carry their magic wand of 15 priests out fucking rages, and then even to the point where they do a ceremony before the 1st of May, on the 29th, they call it the Feast of Cattle. And on the poster for that, they've got the maypole, and they've got the part of the maypole with 93 and the Crowley star carved in it, openly. And then they, Beltane is the main ceremony. Even like the flute player with the big kind of, the pretty flute player, the one with the biggest head, green man head flute player, always there. He's also a Telema fucking priest.
We've got a right code going here.
And then, so the head of the Telema people, he also happens to run the White Spring. And then they store their magic wand in the White Spring for the whole fucking year. And Telema people, Crowley people from all around the world can hire the White Spring for like.
Because I've had tastes of that.
I'm the same.
And that's bonkers.
Yeah.
And disgusting.
Nice, that was a good one.
The town crier, Crowley. Huh?
What are we going to do about it?
Oh, I just sharing the story. That's all. That's all. This is the thing is in this book of law, because I studied it. They also they also seem to talk about me as in like that I'm gonna come.
Oh, we all know that. We all know that.
and that's absolutely fucking hilarious. Yeah, so that's where I'm at, and as of yesterday, I got the coded message that they found it.
Right.
Yeah, I'm the same. I just keep getting get out.
Like the head priest, he posted like a picture. There's like a painting with a stone circle, but in this stone circle, there's like oh nice, thank you. In this stone circle, there's like humans in the stones, and they look a little bit like my icons, like literally. And the picture is from Children of the Stones, which was kind of a series back, I don't know, whatever. And funnily enough, it's about it's based on Crowley, of a city like a little village, and the whole village is under a spell, and everybody acts like really weird. And I'm like, and today also one of the kind of the icon that I put at the marketplace. Thank you so much. That disappeared. It stayed there for the whole of May, and it's all like so obvious. And then I share all of this with the trace of blood and the black magic and like that whole thing with the Crowley people basically in St. John's, and I created. So I created one of those icons from the clay, and I merged that together with a big triangle from the eyeball of Providence, and they're merged together, and there's like one icon that stands, and it carries all these energies. And I took that into St. John's last Monday, and I shared the story like I shared this with you in St. John the Baptist Church in front of those windows, and it's all like on the windows there's Moses, there's Noah with the ark, there's Moses, there's St. John the Evangelist who wrote about the apocalypse, which is exactly what's happening here, and St. John the Baptist. And they are up there, and Moses with the 2 stone tablets. And I get like the bags of clay which look exactly like flipping stone tablets. It's beyond, literally beyond bonkers. And then, as much as they kind of are presented on a plate, what I'm doing is also presented on a plate. Like 4th of May, I met somebody, and he showed me his book that he scribbled in like 15 years ago. He channels things, and he channels stuff about the Holy Thorn and the Tor, and he wrote it. And on the next page,
I messaged and said, look, we can meet.
he drew this sign, the same size, the same. And I'm like, what the flip? And then he passed by at the Croft, where I live. And David Hatfield, he had the 20-year anniversary of like the Glastonbury Grail, Light of the World, his book. And he was giving a reading, and those guys passed by there on that day. It's all a bit like, what the flip? That's why I say it's beyond bonkers.
Every time I see you, it's like I have to get caught up with all the bonkers episodes.
This stuff, and that's only the tip of the iceberg. Like
I said to him, I said, look, I said to him,
every day, like. And then I got to write all that down.
Pretty special, isn't it, sis? There is 2 stars.
Well, we're watching, you watching again.
Yeah.